Welcome to Point High Book Club, my favourite night of the month. And we're talking about 13 Tales of Horror, whoop, whoop, with 14 stories in, believe it or not 30. But yeah, we could count the one as one story combined, as I found out from doing the votes. So thanks everyone for joining in. Hiya! Hello everybody. Right, I'm just going to try and add our brilliant guest, Adam, in. Oh, I've lost all ability of remembering how to do it, which is not helpful. Right, Adam should join us in a second, hopefully. Fingers crossed. Hi, Adam.
There we go. I'm amazed.
Hello.
Well,
are you okay?
I'm good.
Good. Thanks for joining us. Like, we've been talking about this for a long time, I feel like. And you're finally here. Yay.
Hello, everyone down in the chat. I'm not going to be able to, I can see comments, but I don't think I'll be able to chat back. But
yeah, no worries. I'll try and read some out anyway as we go along. But yeah, thanks to everyone who's joined in. And obviously, this is the amazing Adam. I almost say Cesare, but I don't know whether I say that right.
Adam Cesare. It's Adam Cesare.
Cesare. Yeah. But Cesare sounds more snazzier because it's like Cesare.
Right. He's actually nominated for the Booker Prize, Adam Cesare. But Adam Cesare is
Well, if you don't know Adam, his books include Clown in the Cornfield, the fantastic Clown in the Cornfield, and the recently released Clown in the Cornfield 2. I highly recommend these. I love these, Adam, and Emma's your favourite bookseller.
Yes.
But yeah, I highly recommend Clown in the Cornfield. And you had some brilliant news yesterday, which I hope you don't mind me sharing.
Yeah. Do you want to say it or should I?
You say it.
Something I've known for quite a while, but it's very weird how like movies work and stuff like that. But the Clown in the Cornfield has been in development as a movie for a little while now, basically since the book came out. But yesterday there was a big Deadline article announcing the director and the writer. Carter Blanchard wrote a script based on my book, and Eli Craig, who did Tucker and Dale versus Evil, which I really love that movie. He's directing the movie. Temple Hill, who just did Smile, had a really big hit with Smile.
I haven't seen that yet.
Marty Bowen, Peterson Harris, and it's very, very exciting. And the nice thing about that article, and again, I didn't know that article was going up. Like when it was going up, I had a kind of idea because I'd been talking with them. I was like, oh, there's probably going to be some announcement about this soon. But the fun thing about the article, and the thing I did not think it would divulge, is that there is going to be Clown in the Cornfield 3, and I'm working.
Yay!
Yeah, very, very happy about that. I hope.
Yeah.
This is a little bit of exclusive for the 27 people that are watching. but I'm hoping everyone's like, oh, are you going to do a trilogy? Are you going to do a trilogy? I don't. My mind doesn't think in like trilogies. I'm like, well, it's not Return of the Jedi. It's not a trilogy. It goes on. Like there's things you. And a lot of ideas. I have like ideas for years, kind of how I want to turn it and transmute it and turn it almost into other genres. So I think it's safe to say.
Fingers crossed. No, that's so exciting, Adam, and huge congratulations. When I saw that news, I was like over the moon for you, and I'm so happy for you. You really deserve it. Clown in the Cornfield is fantastic. People in the comments are saying how good it is as well. Just brilliant. So can't wait for that.
And I see Out of the Love asking when the movie comes out. I have no idea. They haven't. They've got a script. They've got a director. They don't have a cast yet. They haven't announced anything. I don't have any extra intel there. I can only give you on the book side of things. I hope by Halloween next year. I hope by the time I'm doing this next year, we're all in the movie. But who knows? I think things work slower than that sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, it depends, doesn't it?
It's like, yeah.
Yeah, it does depend a lot. It depends. So you actually picked the book for us to read this month, because I never thought
For us to read, I feel now, before we even get fully into it, like, because I've had moments like this throughout middle school, high school. I picked the book for us to read, and then I like didn't read it. So uh, I've read select stories that we can talk about.
yeah.
And as I told you about it, I have a 6-month-old baby. Which,
Oh.
like, that's not usually part of like the brand of like horror guy Adam talking about his baby, but it does insanely impact your ability. I found I usually am used to reading before bed.
Yeah.
Now, anytime before bed is just me like immediately slumping down and falling asleep. So I've tried to get through as many stories as I can with my other responsibilities, with reading other stuff and things I've sent. But I did not quite make it. But I think we can still have a very good and cogent discussion.
We really can. We can. And what I was going to say was, if there's any stories in particular that people would like to talk about, and if you want to come and join us and talk about them, then please let me know in the comments. As long as like I say know you, but you know, I've spoke to you through the internet before. But yeah, so what I was going to say was, you picked this, Adam, and I am really pleased that you did, because I probably never would have thought to do this for the book club. But I remember reading some of the stories as a teen. I think I just picked out the authors that I liked, but I was actually really pleasantly surprised, and I think I liked most of the stories in the book. And I just think, yeah, thank you, because I probably wouldn't have thought of it myself.
I looked at my shelf because I go to used bookstores and I pick stuff up, and I try not to be like, I'm a book collector, but I'm not like quite a book hoarder. And I was like, well, it's point horror. Let me like see. I have like the big stuff, and it's probably stuff you'd already done. And I had gotten this one recently, and I was like, I wonder if she's. I'm glad you hadn't.
No, it was a good call, absolute good call, because this had everything in it. We had vampires, we had like the dangers of lollipops, believe it or not, waxworks, hypnotism, all sorts of things, a different variety of stories.
Halloween. It felt good for Halloween too, because it really did.
Yeah.
And we had talked about a little bit before this. I was like, what year was this? But 92. It feels incredible. I'm kind of the perfect age that like this was my younger year, and trick-or-treating and Halloween. There's something felt incredibly nostalgic about it, even though I hadn't read this book as a kid. I read some other point horror, and I read it was not square on your feet, a buttload of R L Stine.
Yeah.
So like it was a nice introduction. And feel like gave me a little bit of a overview of, and I think that's what this was meant to do. This feels like almost like a promotional tool, almost like a farm camp of how do they put on the US edition, you had pointed out, Pike's names like super big. They give everyone a listing, which is nice. I've been in a ton of anthologies, and I'm usually like, and others, like I'm usually on the bottom, and it's usually like Stephen Graham Jones, like Chris Carroll Oates, like, you know, whatever, and others. Like, and I'm always the and others. It's nice that they gave everyone credit.
Some credit, yeah.
Bump the font on Pike.
So that's what I said to you the other day. I said, it's weird. Christopher Pike's name is the biggest on there, and then obviously R L Stine, and then on ours it's like just the same on the UK cover. This is my original copy from the 90s, hence why it's so battered. But yeah, they're all just the same font on ours.
But you don't have all. I like that this one credits everyone.
Yeah, just like a couple. I think on mine I've got Christopher Pike, R L Stine, and Diane Ho. That's interesting.
She wrote one of the ones I read.
So there's a few people in the comments. I'll just read a couple out. Everyone's saying congratulations about the movie news, Adam.
I have like 100. Like, I don't want to. I'm like not saying being like, oh, I have so many Instagram comments, but but there's so many people like wishing me well, and it has been like
overwhelmed.
24 hours of like, we've going to like the doctor for the baby and getting her shots and stuff like that. And then if you have children, you know that like you end with the shot. They don't love so
No.
like it's been a whirlwind 24 hours of just being awake. Like, so like if I have not responded to you, which is the vast majority of the comments I have not responded to, thank you. Do not think that who's not responding to you. I really, really, really appreciate it. Yeah.
Oh, no, not at all. I can only imagine what your notifications were like yesterday. And there's me going, point Hannah. Yeah, so. Oh, dear.
7 a.m. It was 7, like it on Eastern Standard Time, like when it came out. And I was like, I saw it like real early when I woke up yesterday. And I was like, oh boy. Like, I was very excited, but I was also like, oh no. Like, no one's even awake yet. And I'm already like things like, I just was like, I want to say thanks to everyone.
Oh, thanks for that. No, we're really, really pleased for you. So I'm just going to read a couple of comments out. And Eddie May's put congratulations on the new baby as well. Paint Waters put, I've only started reading again recently. I'm so glad In A Cornfield was one of the first books I've recently read. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
And then It's All Retros put, I love this collection of stories. It's a great pick. So well done, Adam, because we probably wouldn't have read it. I'll be honest. We probably wouldn't have.
I'm glad everyone else enjoyed.
I wasn't going to bring it up even. You confessed first thing. Oh, bless you. Inside the Covers put, I really want to do the other 2 books. So basically, I'm not sure over in the US, I'm not sure whether you must have got them, but there was 2 other books which was actually edited by one of my friends, Anne Finnis.
Oh, nice.
So I think it might have had some of the UK authors, because they did like a Point Horror Unleashed series over here, and it had the UK, like British authors. I think it's got some of those in, but it would be really interesting to do it. And then maybe I can convince Anne to come on and chat with us, because she's responsible for bringing Point Horror to the UK, and I was just lucky enough to meet her.
No, I didn't know I should watch the show more often, because I didn't know, I don't really know the history of Point Horror other than like the P on the spine. Like, I really just other, and the authors it was growing up it was seeing this stuff pre-internet and not being able to just be like cross-referencing everything. It was, it's my ability to really research it.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, now we can just research all we like. It's amazing. But yeah, no, basically Anne, she used to work for Scholastic here in the UK, and she works for a different publisher now. And basically, I'll send you a link, but she did like a piece for my blog.
Okay.
And basically she got sent this random box of books from the US. So we got a lot of the stories a lot later than the US got them, because she just got sent this random box of books, and basically looked through it and realised there was a bit of a, upcoming market for horror, and kind of just rebranded and published. And the logo, this actual Point Horror logo, was actually created by someone in her team. And things like that. So it was kind of like random chance that we got them, but then also it just took its own life form, and like everyone kind of loved it. So that's kind of like a brief history of the UK. I don't know too much about the US, but I'm trying to find out and learn, because I just find that stuff fascinating, and really like researching it.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. Like how publishing trends start and how they jump over there, because like now there's a little bit less of it. Like books do get like US and UK editions and like different covers and stuff like that. It happens a lot with Titan. You guys have Titan over there, but we have Titan here too. I know Josh was in the comments. He's got
Josh with the brilliant shadow glass, which I'll just hold up here because I've always got it next to me.
And his next one coming out, which is one of the things that I've been reading before bed. What is it called? Remind me of the name of his upcoming book.
Burn the Negative.
Burn the Negative. Yeah, which is a film thing. It's very cool.
Yeah. Yeah,
I had
no,
to say, okay, I forgot. But
we
keep
were
going.
talking we were talking about like publishers and how it's a little
Oh
bit
yeah,
better now.
it's it's weird that it's a different market and it isn't, because
Mm,
the clown in a cornfield books that are released over there, because some publishers I guess have UK branches and some don't. So like Harper does, and they're the exact same. Like they just, I think they
mm,
have different dust jackets. They might have like the pound symbol on the UPC, but otherwise they're like exactly the same. Um,
yeah.
a lot of other authors get different localized editions, basically.
Mm,
And it was a weird thing when the first Clown in the Cornfield came out. There it was the very beginning of the pandemic, and there was like it was like before even like supply chain was like the buzzword that we all used to be like. That's why
yeah.
everything sucks, is that like there's no, you can't get any. Like they were like they had gotten in. They had not printed a whole ton, because I think the book was a little bit of a sleeper and a little bit of like a surprise hit. I think
Yeah.
was like, horror, we don't really know what to do with this. Not in a bad way. Not like they were like torpedoing the book. I think they just didn't
Mm,
was going to be demand for it. And because it was happening right at the same time of COVID just starting, like they got an order from, they didn't print a lot, and this is my understanding of it. This might be like a little bit of print the legend, because I'm like getting too far into emails, but like they got an order from Target, which is a big retailer here. I don't know if you guys have Targets over there, but they're like a Walmart, like the big box.
mm,
But they got
yeah.
this order for Target to be part of like the Halloween end cap. They don't sell a ton of books in Target. They just sell like they have like a little kind of boutique selection of books. But that meant that they were like, oh, we got this great order, but the
Oh.
UK release is supposed to be a month after. So they had
Mm,
all those books that were supposed to go to the UK for like that kind of second release, and we're like, we need these to be on the shelves at Target, was my understanding of it, because it was just more of a hit than they thought it was going to be.
oh wow, that's amazing.
Needing to apologize now, 2 years after the fact, to everyone who pre-ordered in the UK from Amazon. Like they got orders canceled, they got orders delayed.
Oh.
I was really upset about it, because everyone that like put their $20 in and was like taking a chance on the book and should have been the early adopters and should have been getting it first were delayed.
Mm.
So that's
Oh.
a little bit about, like, I find it interesting that
Yeah, that is interesting. And then, like, did you find it different, like with Clown in a Cornfield 2? Like, did you get asked to write that virtually straight away after it was such a success with the first one, or?
it was only a couple. It was only like again, I don't really remember the exact timeline, but it was a month or two. It was a month or two after. And I had been, I didn't write the first one to be like have a sequel, but after getting all the feedback on the first one, and just being like the most natural thing in the world is to have sequels for a slasher. I was just for my editors, like in the email, I was just like, you guys gotta get two. You gotta get two going. Come on, we gotta have.
Yeah.
So like, I think it was probably a little bit of me just being obnoxious and a little bit of the book doing well that that led to us being able to do two.
Yeah. Well, there was definitely a need, well, not a need, a want for it out there, definitely, because the fan base like wanted the sequel, which is amazing, really. So we're so glad we get it, and now we get a third one, and that's so exciting. Oh dear. So obviously,
Let's book club a bit. Let's talk about this.
let's talk about this. Just really quick, I wanted to just ask though, obviously this had quite big names in point horror, or big names in general, like Christopher Pike's in here, but over here we didn't get him under the point horror banner, which is really interesting. But what do you think would make what's the question I'm trying to ask? What would make an author be in an anthology like this? Like, what tips would you give them to get into an anthology from a writing perspective?
Oh, it's so tough, because there's like themed and unthemed anthologies, and this is an unthemed anthology. I guess the idea kind of teen horror stories. And I think what really works about this is you get almost a kaleidoscopic view of like the teen experience in a way. Even though I think some of the ways teens are written in these stories, and in 80s and 90s YA particularly, I always find fascinating because of like they're always like they're always a little bit heightened in their language, and always a little bit. I'm like, I know I wasn't a teenager in 1992. I was a little kid, but I don't think teens talk like this. What I like about it is there's this, you know, you have teens listening to the radio. You have teens doing their nails. You have teens working at amusement parks. You have teens like working jobs. You have teens. You have so many angles and like dating things and almost to a detriment, because it's like each story you're like, I have to learn about a new boyfriend girlfriend group for the first 3 pages before any horror starts in some stories. So like I think there is almost like, so I'm getting to my tip. I'm getting to my, like, there is almost like a bit of, when I think of like if I'm ever invited to an anthology, or when I don't do it as much now, because of timing, but when I would there would be a prompt or an opening for submissions for an anthology, and I would be writing a story to either fit a prompt or to like a general vibe of like what this publisher is used to putting out, and what if I could try to handicap like a guess of what kinds of stories they're trying to get. My tip would be, because I think it's the best stories in here, are the stories that are a little bit askew, or a little bit their content or their thematics or whatever are a little bit not what you'd expect when you pick up a book. I think those are the stories to me that stand out. So that would be my tip. I would almost try to play a little bit of, you want to just write the story you want to write, of course. Like I think that but if you think like just an example, like if there's like a When Animals Attack, you know, anthology is open, my first thought would be to think of the most likely stories they're going to get. Well, what kind of animals are they going to get? They're going to get like a house infested with rats. They're going to get, you know, kind of a like of unknown origin, or James Herbert, like pastiche. They're going to get, I would like literally list the things that they're probably going to see the most of in the submissions pile. And then I wouldn't pick any of those would be, and I think there's something to how this anthology is put together, where you can kind of see that there are themes and ideas and story types. And then the ones that are less prevalent were the ones that I was personally most interested in. So I'm writing a story or I'm finishing a story right now. It's all so if Alan's well done. I'm writing a story right now for an anthology called Obsolescence, and it's about technology. It's like horror and technology and where they intersect, and it's like, you think about that, and you think about like, well, you're probably going to get some stories that are like futuristic. You're probably going to get some stories that are like verging on the cyberpunk. You're going to get some stories about the internet and like the dark web, and you're going to get some stories that are kind of almost creepypasta-esque. Was my kind of thought. And then I picked to write a story that I was like, what is a kind of technology that, looking at the other authors who are invited, looking at the submission pile, like, are they probably not going to get? Who knows? I don't actually know. But I know that I'm writing my story. That's how I started out, was like those 3 things, those 3 kinds of types of stories. Let me not do those. Let me something else.
No, that's a really amazing tip, because definitely, like when I was reading, you know, the 13 Tales of Horror, the ones that stood out to me were the unusual ones, and the ones that were just well, I won't say a little bit crazy, but way crazy. And they just are more memorable even. And, you know, you just stick in your mind a little bit more, because you just think, what? What's going on? But yeah, I just noticed Emma had put that Waterstones at the time, until she got it on their radar kind of thing. So Waterstones is obviously our main people. And so she got it on the radar, because In A Cornfield wasn't really on their radar.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you, Emma. Superstar bookseller.
Territories in like Canada, like what the weirdest thing was, like Canada was the one that sold the most, because whatever Indigo, their Chapters Indigo, their big chain, they had a surplus. They had a ton of books and they were all there. In the U.S., because of COVID and because everything was shut down, like each Barnes and Noble got like one copy. Like I went like 2 days after the fact, all masked up and stuff, and was like so excited to go see my book at a store. And I went to the Cherry Hill, New Jersey Barnes and Noble, and the guy was like, "Yeah, I think we have that." And this is like 2 days after the book came out. He's like, "I think we have that. Yeah, we got one copy. It's in the back." And I was like, "Why the hell is it in the back?" So,
it's crazy.
A slow rollout, and everyone in the comments who's talked about Clown in the Cornfield and likes the book. It really is due to you that there's been any kind of success, because that book was not set up for success, let's say, and it was pure word of mouth, and like, you know, I can see the book scan numbers. Like it sold more season than it did like out for 2 Halloween seasons. Like it sold more like now than it has then. So like it's still a word of mouth phenomena and a gospel of friendo, if you will, which is
it's amazing. And it's like, I do feel sorry for anyone who had a book out during the pandemic. Like my friend Amy McCaw, who I think's in the chat, she wrote Mina and the Undead, and her book came out during the pandemic.
It was I felt terrible for Diana Urban too. Like
yes,
it's like it was these YA authors that I've talked to that we have this kind of special bond, because it was like all right, let's try to figure out how to do this. And it was I've been writing video nights up there, and well, you can't really see it, and summer jobs up there, but I've been writing adult horror fiction in the indie scene for 10 years before Clown in the Cornfield came around. And I was so used to selling stuff online and selling stuff at conventions and really trying to like be my own public relations arm, that like I felt a little bit more like I was really feeling like, oh, this will be great, the book will be in stores, I'll be able to get it everywhere. And then kind of when it wasn't, and when stores weren't open, it was like, all right, back to tricks, like but it was I feel terrible for not for self-pity, but for everyone that had that happen. I understand how hard it was, and grind it was. And Mina's got a sequel, so it worked out. Like,
and it's so good.
So tough. And I know Diana Urban has more books coming out. Like, so it seemed like the end of the world at the time, but luckily it wasn't the end of the world. And there were a lot, like I like to say, yes, it was like a shock professionally, but there were a hell of a lot worse things going on. I counted myself very lucky in very, very many ways. Want to sound like I was completely like, oh, COVID.
Oh no, no, definitely.
Lives and ended so many lives, so I don't want to sound like that guy. It's just with that level of perspective, yes.
Definitely. So getting on to, so I noticed Marzi Pamponi put, when I was 16 in 1992, we did not talk like that. So, as you was mentioning about the speech. Oh dear. And Emma's put, Shelley loves creepy pasta. So you just mentioned about pasta, but I got very confused once on a live chat when someone brought this up, and I didn't have a clue what this was, and I was like, why are we talking about fusilli or like macaroni? It was a live chat that went a little bit wrong, but it was quite funny because I didn't have a clue what was going on. Everyone's laughing at
it's all
everyone's laughing at the creepy pasta throwback because it was funny at the time. You just see my face on this live chat just be very, very confused as to what's going on. It's very confused. Right, so I'm just going to skip through some comments. Right, talking about, I saw lots of people mentioning about the deer story in obviously 13 Tales of Horror. Which I know is one of the ones. So that was by Caroline B. Cooney. So Caroline B. Cooney, to me, as a teen, I overlooked severely because I always found her books were always like, I wasn't really into vampires and stuff like that as a teen, and I was more into like the stalkering people and stuff like that, and like dodgy boys.
In the the YA 90s universe. Yeah.
So I overlooked her honestly severely when I was younger, and now I regret it because I think her writing is absolutely brilliant. But yeah, so the deer story. So I'm just going to bring my notes down. So just a trigger warning ahead of time. Might be reference to like some animal death in this particular part of the chat because it goes with the story. But basically, hi from Spain. Wow.
Maybe you
yeah,
want
so so basically it's about four friends who are walking to school, and they have to pass this cliff called Dead Kids Curve, I think it was, and across from it is some kind of woods, and the area is surrounded by like this urban legend that young children go missing every few years, and the cause of this is apparently that nature decides who they want to claim. And after a premonition, it's kind of ready for its next victim as such. So what did you think of this one, Adam? I'm really intrigued because I'm not sure.
I liked it, and I think there's an interesting talking about being different. Like this is a very, it has almost like a urban legend quality because there's parts to the story too. There's almost three distinct parts to the story. There's like kind of that introduction part where we meet our actual protagonist, and we kind of move back to tell that almost campfire story of like, I like that it's always groups of kids. It's not like you get taken. It's not like you get taken because you're out on Dead Kids Bluff at night or whatever, like it's Dead Kids Cliff or whatever it is. Like it's you're with the group, and then it comes back with that. Like it's like there's like was there a fog or something like that, and just like one's gone, and then the rest get to go. Like
yeah.
See, and I think there's an interesting thing about that. I've read one other Carolyn B. Cooney book. I read Freeze Tag.
Good one.
I read as an adult, and I really enjoyed, and I know it's one of those kind of hallmarks of this era of YA fiction. But Freeze Tag to me felt very very traditional and written in a very kind of down the middle, like pulpy style. And this story, Carolyn B. Cooney's got some
issues.
Issues, but it feels, even just like on a language level, it feels a little elevated, and it felt a little more literary than the stories around it, and the stories that I had read from her. It's almost like it's almost feels almost Stephen Graham Jones-esque. Besides. There are deers in it. Like it feels in style and the way it kind of wraps around on itself. Like it felt that way, which is why, like we had talked about a little. You have a heads up. This and House of Horrors are my two favorite. And I think the distinction for me would be, I like this one because of how different it is, and I like House of Horrors in how meat and potatoes it is almost like. It's like
traditional.
It's a good concept executed incredibly straightforwardly, that still manages to be surprising. So that's, if I were to say like the two favorites in here, they're those two because of that. Like one,
the contrast kind of thing.
Also expected to do incredibly well, and then one doing something I'm not expecting, is how I would describe them.
Yeah, and there's definitely in this Where the Deer Are, there's like a really, like I remember reading this as a teen, and it really creeped me out, not so much when I've reread it, but it's the one that I remembered the most from reading as a teen. And it's always that scene where she kind of goes to the school with its terracotta roof, because apparently terracotta is safe and, you know, inviting. But she goes to the school and she kind of ends up in the bathroom, and she looks in the mirror, and then she sees this deer staring back at her, and then all of a sudden the deer kind of comes through the mirror, and it's the way it's described with like its spindly legs and things like that. It's creepy. Like just very that moment is creepy.
Modern descriptions, and exceedingly like in an anthology where everything felt a little like staid and a little bit like, oh, well, we don't really write fiction like this anymore. This felt like it could have been released yesterday. And something like the little descriptions stand out to me. Like it was even before like the horror starts. She talks about her father hitting the deer, and it talks about the deer's like how she doesn't like deer, and she describes all the things she doesn't like about deer, and she talks about like I loved like that it was not a typical. It wasn't like how Quint describes the shark's eyes in Jaws. It wasn't like, you know, it was like not your typical description of eyes, of black eyes. Like it was very, I forget what she says, maybe pools. She said they're runny, they're roomy, like use some kind of description of like how wet and gelatinous they were. Like, you know,
Yeah.
very interesting turn of phrase
Yeah.
way to, like I said, a little elevated, a little up, like compared to what I was expecting read previous to that. So.
Yeah, and this is what Caroline B. Cooney's really good at that. And I saw someone earlier mention that they'd read The Fog by Caroline B. Cooney. Oh, hang on, there it is. Yeah, Marty Pamponi said they've read The Fog, and that I've read that recently, just last year. And although there's like issues with the book in general, in my opinion, there's a lot of gaslighting in it. Like, but that's just maybe a sign of the time.
Genre conceit, I feel like it needs, yeah.
And but it was creepy, and the way she does the atmosphere is creepy, and just everything. And I just think she's quite a genius. Like, I really appreciate her writing.
That she doesn't have the cachet of a Stine or of a Pike, because it seemed like she was working a lot, and it seemed like these books were well regarded. So it's just odd that you know, not many of them are still in print, and hers are. So something you said there too.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think she was ahead of her time. That's what I always say. She was ahead of her time. So for me as a teen, it didn't quite capture my imagination, but me as an adult, and with what, you know, the horror we get now, it kind of, I think it fits in really, really nicely.
Yeah.
There's a couple of comments I just saw. So Eddie May put, deer really do appear out of nowhere and then stare you down. They really do. And like, now I think about it, that is kind of creepy.
Yeah, that idea of like before, like I said, before the heart starts, just her dislike of deer, and it's like, no, I like deer, and then you read it and you're like convinced. You're like, you're right, I don't like deer. Like,
yeah, at the beginning I was like, oh dear, and then at the end I was like, no, dear, no. Larissa's put Cooney definitely has more of a literary style, which I agree with. And Emma's put, the deer stuck in my mind and the mirror moment. So it was definitely like quite an impactful scene, that definitely. Karen's put, I think in Deer there's a secret plot that's not anything to do with the deer. So yeah, that's interesting. I read up on this because I wasn't quite sure how I felt about it, but I think there's like underlying metaphors about like global warming and things like that, because obviously with the can, I don't know, I just find it really weird, but the can at the end, and like
you were sitting taking notes. I was really just like delirious, letting the stories wash over me, and that's again, I was picking up, I was like, there's meat to this one, was my general takeaway of like, well, I could read this again. Or I was a teacher for 5 years, and I used to always kind of be like, what are short stories I could read with the kids? Because I taught in a number of different schools, but I taught in schools where it was, we didn't have a book room, and it was incredibly underfunded, and you needed something high impact and high engagement to get the kids to even really give you the time of day. So like, I was always, I feel like if I ever go back to teaching, I'll probably use this because
I definitely think there's like an underlying meaning. Someone much more cleverer than me could probably say.
There's an urban legend meets a kind of nature.
Yeah.
When nature attacks, when nature's mistreated, kind of thing. Because it is that, like, the deer are dying because of like mankind. Like the deer are dying of. It's like not really a deer revenge story, but it kind of is, and it's kind of a nature revenge story. Like.
Yeah, no, definitely, and obviously a very much anti-hunting kind of vibe. Like, don't hunt us, we'll hunt you, kind of thing.
Exactly. I used to be why are so many horror authors teachers? Horrifying profession. passion. I loved every second that I was in a classroom. Everything around that for teaching, any kind of administrative tasks or anything that's not like actually standing in front of a class and dealing with kids and talking to kids and talking about the subject matter, like is not fun.
Yeah.
Everything
Yeah.
that stuff in the classroom is. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Really?
definitely. And Ollie's books and beads put deer always stop and stare at me. It's creepy. It's more creepy now we've read this story, you know. Nikki
Look out.
Nicky Boy has put agreed, not typical descriptions. I think there was a part where the trees were described as thin, like teenage anorexics. Oh, I didn't pick that up. I did read a lot about trees, but I got very confused.
Yeah, there's a lot of tree description. She was like, Cooney was like spinning the wheel and like another tree description.
Karen has just put ping me in for the deer chat. You want to join, Karen? Is that what you're saying? You want to join and speak about it? Let me know, because I don't just want to add you in if you don't. And Lune Nook has put, I thought it cleverly moved from always a dismissible fear as a reader to becoming a truth and genuinely chilling. Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, amazing story. I did really like it. Oh yeah, Karen said add her in. I'll bring Karen in. Karen's always got a lot of like good like facts. She's probably got deer facts for us. Let's add Karen in. Here she is. She'll come in. Hi, Karen.
This is why I'm like, add me in.
What did you think of the deer story then?
Other than being super creepy, you've got the main storyline that you guys were looking at, which is like the global warming, don't chuck your litter in the forest. But the whole way through, they were saying things like they're describing the woods as rasped together like sore throats with infections. It makes it impossible to swallow. Thin like teenage anorexics, and everything in there is like really thin. And even the deer are described as deeroids, like dolls. So I think it's actually nothing to do with anything to do with the environment. It's more to do with like she's not wanting to eat. She's not wanting to eat meat, and then she's seeing all these deer outside and getting hungrier and hungrier and anorexic. Yeah. And it's more the case that she's just not even going out of the house. She's still in the house having some kind of, you know, having not eaten, seeing this. So every time that people go missing, she's just, you know, the dark cloud of that cellar door that's in the forest is more her having a reaction to eating disorders. And it's double layered. Like you read it first of all and you just think, oh, it's, you know, don't go and be mean to the deer because they'll be mean back to you. And you chuck litter in the forest after she's disappeared on her grave.
Yeah.
Every single description, like Caroline B. Cooney does brilliant descriptions the whole way through.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. I never and I honestly never would have like this. Oh, Caroline B. Cooney's a genius.
Yeah. Even when she goes into the bathroom, like near the end, and she looks in the mirror and sees a deer looking back at her, really skinny, and it's like, and she falls out of the like everything's food related, so she falls out of the bathroom, and it was like cereal from a box. I was like, that's such a great description. Like you're just falling apart onto the floor like Rice Krispies. So
yeah. Oh, I love that, Karen. Yeah, that's so interesting. That's such an interesting. Like, I never would have picked that up. That's amazing.
Yeah, only from picking up. The first time I read it the same way that you did, and then just mulling it over I read it earlier today. Mulling it over for a few hours. I was like, wait, there's more to this. There's like everything is food related and not wanting to swallow and so I think it's more that huge, I mean it's still around now, but the huge anorexic bulimia thing that we had back in the 90s where everyone wanted to be
real thin. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Oh, I'd love to like speak to Caroline B. Cooney just to ask her like just about that story now. Yeah, that's amazing. Oh, thanks, Karen. Thanks for popping on. I don't know. I'm not sure. I've never like added anyone in. Oh, hang on. Right, okay. I'll remove you. But if you want to come back on, do come back on. Right. Honestly, if anyone wants to come on, thanks, Karen.
Thank you. Bye.
Oh no, that's just amazing, like how amazing her writing is. I just think that's just genius. Like, and everyone picks up different things, and I love it. but one of the stories as well. So House of Horrors, which you mentioned earlier, and I've seen a few people in the chat saying they loved House of Horrors, and it actually won. I did like a poll, which caused.
Sorry, I've seen it. How do you say Karen introduced me to Cloud of the Cornfield, by the way? Double thank Karen.
Thanks, Karen. Yeah, so I did a poll, which seemed to have caused absolute uproar because of the way I did the voting. But yeah, House of Horrors won as the favourite story in this anthology. So that means everyone likes a good classic old waxwork haunted house.
Oh yeah.
So what did you think? What did you think of the story, essentially?
As I said, the story is it's a kid working. He's kind of new working. I did not take notes, so you have to correct me if I'm wrong. Working at this haunted house that's within an amusement park, I believe. So like the kids at the haunted house. It's not a traditional, or it's not what you think of as a haunt now of walking through conga line style and getting scared in each room. It's a like you said, a waxworks, there are separated rooms where the kid in front of him is sending a group to his room, and like they basically tell a little scary story or do whatever pattern they've got to do. He does his thing, and then he moves them on to the next room, which is the girl that he kind of likes.
What don't you think she had deep pooled brown eyes?
Yeah. So she like on one of these like handoffs, like handing off a group, she tells him there's going to be a party tonight in the haunted house.
Yeah.
I really liked that because I kind of had tracked it from there. Like I was like, the author does who wrote this one, by the way?
So it was J.B. Stamper. Now they didn't have any under the Point Horror banner over here. But I think they wrote Tales for the Midnight Hour, which are meant to be really good, but I've never read any of those.
J.B. Stamper I kind of tracked right away that like this is going to be like a nerd tricked into thinking he's going to a party. Like, so they tell him like, and then the guy in front of, who's the guy that hands off the group to him, tells him, yeah, like just make sure you hide so that the owner of the manager of the thing doesn't see you. Get a hide, and then we'll all come out after everyone's gone. And
sus.
Yeah, at least but why I think it's a great story. Beyond I just enjoy like the patina of like descriptions of haunted attractions and things like that, which is things that I like. I think it's a great story because there is another wrinkle added where you had him. There's this description early on. He's unnerved by some of the waxwork, some of the corpse.
I would be.
Wow, they're really realistic, like which is another kind of conceit of these types of stories. There's like the prank story, which is what we get, and then there's the bodies in the haunted house are real bodies, which is you get it's chocolate and peanut butter. This gives you both of that that type of story, but it does it really well. I'm constantly I'm all over the map here in discussing, but I'm constantly pushing against this idea that, and I get asked to do podcasts. I do a lot of promo stuff because I like doing it, and because it's just the way you got to get the word out about books. But like, I'm always like a little thrown when people talk about people love using the term hard tropes, and they love like tropes. It's this almost overused word in our community, in our scene, where like it could be people use it in a negative context, people use it in a positive context, people use it completely incorrectly, which the English like goes wild about. But like, I think there is that idea of like tropes are neither positive nor negative in the connotation I have to them. They just are. They are just a fact. There is no, you may be a very original person. We talked about how original feeling Carolyn B. Cooney's story was, but it is a collection of tropes. Everything it is, they are the building blocks of fiction and of stories, and it's all in how you use them and how you subvert those ideas and how you present them that is that separates what I think, subjectively, be good fiction from bad fiction. So I think what we're dealing with here is a story that has two things we've seen a million times, but it is presented so enjoyably, and so I was legitimately surprised when he gets locked in.
Yeah.
But they turn down the temperature. They turn down the temperature because you have to. The wax has to reset.
That was creepy.
Oh, that's how waxworks work. I don't think Adam Toussaint's like the AC at night. That would be not for them. But I love that conceit. And then I was kind of like, oh, is he gonna is this gonna be like a non-supernatural story? Is he just gonna just straight up die in here, because he's frozen and scared and has to spend the night over? I kind of thought that could have been the way it went. And then we introduced a straight up hammer horror villain, which you can't see around my room, but that is my absolute bread and butter as far as like subgenres of things. It is specifically British and European vampire cinema of the 70s.
Yeah.
I love that idea, and he just gets straight up murked by a vampire woman and his body left there for them to find the next day. Like, oh, another waxworks added to the thing. Great. Wow. So I'm surprised it was the top voted story in here because of that kind of, like I said, meat and potatoes aspect to it. But I'm surprised that I'm not.
Yeah. It's
what were your takeaways? I talked for a very long time.
Oh, no. I was like interested to hear what you thought. But no, I thought the same thing. And I liked to see everything that you said. I totally agree with the AC being cranked down was super creepy. And also, was there something like a rat or something where he was like hiding?
He hit you get literally he or she or the author JB Sampler throws so many little moments in there of horror, so it doesn't waste, uses every part of the buffalo for this story. Like there's that fear of the dark, fear of being in an empty room, fear of discovery, hiding, tension, and you're in there with a rat. Like there's just everything is, and then you realize later that the rat is there because it's eating the corpses of every.
Oh. Creepy. But yeah, no, I loved the way the ending happened, where he did the classic thing of like running down to the basement as well, and I loved that. And then also at the end, obviously after he's been bitten and turned into this waxwork. I mean, I'd love to have known the process of that. Like after he'd been bitten, like, how did they turn him into this waxwork? But it's the way Lisa finds him the next day, and she's just like, "Oh, he looks familiar. Oh well."
She's so what a good character. Because you barely sketch that, but just to be the kind of mean girl would be one thing, but to just be so so dispassionate and so this guy. Literally nothing to me. Life was meaningless. I love that. I love that. There's something about getting to that level of callousness and evil that I'm good. I like Lisa.
Yeah, it did make me giggle at the end. I thought, yeah, he meant that little to anyone. She just was like, whatever. I
almost forgot she did that to him.
And obviously it begs the question, do they know of these goings on? Because they kind of invited him to this fake party to stay there. It's is she feeding these waxwork vampires kind of thing? And I think that's what it was. It kind of left it so open-ended for interpretation that you just want to know more. It was interesting. I really liked it. I liked that one. It wasn't my favourite, but I did like it. It wasn't my personal favourite.
There is something to that idea of obliqueness and you were saying I'm not sure how the math on that works. It's how it get turned into a waxwork. But again, there is that. There's the rat. There's these little hints that there might be a kind of that Stamper might have the answers to this and is not telling us. But I also enjoy it just as much. I think it almost more if Stamper is just doesn't care. Like big thing for me in my not as much in horror fiction, because I know those notes you get back from editors, and I know how otherworldly, like especially in YA, you get everything like litigated and relitigated, and are you sure that this would be the way this would work? And for me as an author and as a writer, and for me as a film fan, in film you get to take way more leaps in logic than you would in at least in YA commercial fiction. In more hard adult fiction, you can take leaps, you can leave things a little bit more obscure and a little bit more unsettled. But I think you've got to be a little clear in just the genre we're working in, and the editors will not let you not be that clear. When in film, and in some of my favorite things in film are these little questions about like, well, what does that image mean? What does that repetition mean? What is that? How does this concept work? And because we saw the beginning, and then you can cut out some stuff and you can move to the end. It's the way montage works and mise en scene, and you can just move forward. I love that about this story, that that you asked me to explain the math of it, I would not be able to, and I almost hope Stamper wouldn't be able to, because that's not the point of the story. Like it's because I want you looking at the things that I'm directing you to. I don't want you, and then in the story for me works that way, because I almost didn't, like I had no questions about or if I did, I wasn't like unhappy about them. I was like, I like that this left me something to puzzle with a little bit.
Yeah, and it's not the same, but the ending. So there was a book that I read a few years ago now. I won't say the book because I'm just about to spoil the end, so I won't say the book. But there was a bit of uproar about it at the time amongst like the blogging community because of the way it ended. And basically, the author, in my opinion, was really clever, because they led you kind of down this garden path of like, it was like a thriller more than a horror. So it was about this murder that had happened, and you don't know who killed this person and whatever. It was a YA. So they lead you down this path, and you're suspecting all these people. And then right on the last line, she reveals who the killer was. And the killer leads the next victim away. And it's literally on the last line. There's no sequel to this book. There was never a sequel planned. And I just thought it was a bold move. Really bold.
Message me the name of that book, because I want to know. But what a baller. Good for them.
And what a bold move to do that. And at the time, I was frustrated as a reader, because I was like, no, how can they do this? But then on the other hand, I was a bit like, that is amazing that they could do that, and they did do that, and it was just I'll message you the book. But
I've had similar conversations with my friends, not to spoil it. This is not spoiling it at all, but there's going to be a film adaptation of The Cabin at the End of the World, the Paul Tremblay. And I love the way that book ends, and I know that's a huge point of contention. Read it, even amongst my friends, like we're not all in agreement about like even what it means or what the ending is. But it's my favorite part of the book is the ending. Not being a fan of M. Night Shyamalan and being a fan of the way he makes movies, and he had just adapted Old from a comic that does not have that ending. I'm so that is the thing that I'm like most, I wouldn't say like dreading, but I'm most interested in. Like I know he's like there's just simply no way movie ends like that book, and it's been like this puzzle for me of like, what the hell's he gonna do? What is the movie ending gonna be? It's like I could be wrong. I have no insider information. I know the movie screams.
I think he's done an interview and said that.
Oh, has he?
They've changed. I'm sure I've seen something that he said they've changed the ending.
I'm positive he has.
Yeah, I'm sure I saw something, and they said people are either going to love it or people are really not going to like it, but a bit like how it was in the actual book. Like people loved it, people didn't.
Good for him. He is an interesting filmmaker. like I said, I'm more interested than anything else. Like I'm not like looking forward to it. I'm not dreading it. I'm just more fascinated with what the heck's he gonna do.
Yeah, no, definitely.
We
So
hour, so I do want to just I want to like see the comments and wrap up and stuff. But just letting you know I do have to go eventually.
yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, because I realise the time. We'll talk. What we'll do, I'll talk about the other one that you read, and then maybe Karen can come on, and me and Karen can just have a little chitty chat, just quick if you've got to get off. Just really quick, I'll just have a look at the comments then. So, Eddie May's put House of Horrors was my fave. Wax figures have always been creepy enough, but the idea of them hunting you down to make them one of you, no. Yeah, lots of people. Emma's put a good trope. A good trope needs to be the same but different, which is kind of in agreement.
The idea that it's a neutral, like it's a neutral word is my take on the word, and it just gets this like almost telephone like trope. We say it all the time, and it's like no. Like don't look at the like don't tell me about like the kinds of Legos the sculpture was made out of. Like, is it a house or is it a boat? I want to know that. Like, I don't want to know what kinds of Legos you like. Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. Raj, it's all retro, has put, as I read all of these stories, I could honestly visualize them so well they could be translated to screen. So yeah, because I think because we was watching the Midnight Club as well, I was kind of envisioning them as like Christopher Pike short stories, kind of thing. Amy's put, I love House of Wax. So that kind of had those vibes. And obviously, me and Eddie watched Waxwork and discussed it.
Love that movie.
Yeah. I'd never seen it before until I watched it recently. It was amazing. House of Wax is undervalued. I'm just going through. Robbie Miles has put, love the Arrow box sets, Adam, great collection.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I didn't even notice. That's guys, that is a British company. But yeah, I've got a few UK discs, but they're most American ones.
And Emma's put, I love the morally grey characters. Or just everyone's saying message me later to tell me what that book is. I think, Amy, you might have read it, I think, but I'll message. The only thing is I haven't really spoilt the end because I didn't say who it was. But yeah, have you got time to chat about one more story, or do you need to go? Or
I'll just really say that like the story we're going to talk about is this dedicated to the one I love.
Yes, so Diane Ho.
Yes.
Wasn't it? Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about that writer real quick, and then I'm gonna jump off once I kind of say my.
Yeah. So basically, if you're interested, I did interview Diane Ho last year on my blog. I managed to get in touch with her, and that. But she kind of, I think she's in her 80s now, bless her. But she wrote a lot of stories for Point Horror. Well, not for Point Horror, but were branded Point Horror. So like Fun House. And The Train, which we've done.
I know those covers, yeah. And
then obviously she did the Nightmare Hall series, which in the US you got far more than we did over here. But I've been covering some of those on Point Horror Book Club as well. But with this one, it did feel very Diane Ho, I thought. I think this was my actual personal favourite story. So you basically got these three girls who have basically been seeing the same bloke, and they've all found out. Yeah, and I liked the reference of them painting the nails in like this peach blossom colour or something.
Like only one of us has the courage or bad taste to use the other color. I love that description because they're already at each other's throats even before anything. Like even just the like dismissal of one of the nail colors is like and I like that in the beginning of just all them just sitting there huffing like nail polish remover.
It's such a good scene. And then obviously they start hearing these songs on the radio which are dedicated to them, and then they kind of get bumped off by electrocution in the bath or like falling down the stairs and paralyzed.
It's brutal. It's kind of a mean story. And there's even even before the electrocution scene, even before the first kill, there's a description of, we know that it's supernatural. Like, we know that there's a very like almost 80s, early 90s description of like goo. Like, I think of movies that have like goo and ectoplasm in them. And I forget what exactly she describes it as. Like,
Yeah,
gray.
like sludge, isn't it? Like brown
Yeah.
sludge.
Like, I'm like, that made me immediately sit forward. That description of like, wow, we're not hiding the ball. We are showing that there is like, we're like showing the like ghosted away or whatever. Like, I really like that of that. I like that this didn't feel like the 90s to me. This felt like the 50s or 60s. This
Yes.
very like almost Grease, you know. This felt like
yeah. It had like an old school feel.
You know, this love quadrangle we were in, and like this they definitely like almost like Live Fast Die Young, like this guy who was all older than them, so like, oh, don't tell your parents we're dating, they would not, you know. Great.
Yeah.
Muck. Yeah, great description.
Yeah, speedway chick. Grey green muck.
like it felt very like I could, you know, almost hear like a kind of like doo-wop soundtrack to this, and the way that it was related, that even I'm imagining even in the 90s, this felt a little staid, this felt a little throwback.
Yeah.
Which is great, because when we talk about fiction now, everyone's like throwback fiction, you know, like everyone's like throwback fiction. It's like, well, it's not. That was never almost a new thing. Like, people talk about, it's because Stranger Things is so prevalent in people. And look, we're not above it. Like, the Harper used the Stephen King font like on In A Cornfield to try to make that connection in people. Even though the books are very modern, I think, but like,
yeah.
This story, I like that it shows that no, people in the 90s weren't just doing like 90s stuff. They were doing it in a weird way, like throwback fiction too.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it did have that feel. And like as Emma said, she needs to have a word with Diane Ho, because about unreliable narrators, because you don't just forget murdering someone. And that's exactly what they do.
I got that right away. Like, the idea of like, he's away or whatever. Like literally just like the overuse of ellipses to be like, he's ... away, or he like, that level of like, what did they say? Like, he's gone. Like, he's gone.
Yeah.
Like they like use so many euphemisms for like, killed him.
And the thing is, the way they killed him was they go and like just to like dump him somewhere in the middle of nowhere, because they're all like pretty pissed off with him, and then he gets his tie trapped in the door and they kind of drag him along.
Awesome.
And then then he dies, and then they chuck him in the swamp, hence the green and grey muck. But yeah, it was
it's very
interesting.
It's very like Tales from the Crypt, Vault of Horror, like those types of stories. Like, it's exactly, it follows the exact map of those types of stories. But for like a 90s teen audience, I like that feel of it. It is something. The film Creepshow, which itself was like an homage to the EC Comics and Tales from the Crypt and things like that. It feels exactly like a goopy monster coming back and getting revenge. Like,
yeah,
like the one that wronged him in the first place. Like, it has that kind of vibe to it of like revenge upon revenge upon revenge. Like,
yeah. And
so,
Karen said it had like sorry, Adam, it had like a Final Destination vibe, and I think Nikki's put a note he did last summer, but it gave me as well Scream Queen Series 2 vibes with the swamp, where they took a body in the swamp. So yeah, I just really loved it, and I loved how the songs like predicted their death, and then no one could hear these songs on the radio. I just loved the whole thing.
The next day, and it's like, I was listening to Johnny G or whatever the DJ's name was all night, and I didn't hear. Like, I love these kids all just sitting there.
No, definitely. But I loved it.
Gotta see who the dedications were for these. But great. I have had such a good time.
Oh, thank you, Adam. And what I'll do, if Karen's happy to come on and just chat about a couple more with me, Karen, please, then that would be really great. But no, I know you've got to go, Adam, because you've got a small baby, and I do appreciate you being here.
No, thank you.
And Oh, thank you. And do come back again soon. And good luck with everything.
Thank you. Thank you. I just know that I'm not wearing a Philadelphia Flyers jersey. I'm wearing the Spirit Halloween.
Oh, whoop, whoop.
I realized that I could only see myself from like this far up, and I'm like, they think I'm in a hockey jersey, but
Oh, it's amazing. Oh, thanks, Adam. What I'll do, I'll knock you out and knock you out.
please, I sleep.
Oh, but no, thank you so much. No, thanks, Adam. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye. Right, I think okay. Right, I'm just going to add Karen in. We'll just talk about a couple more. It was just fascinating talking to Adam about writing and Clown in a Cornfield and stuff like that. So obviously, Karen. Obviously, I was just saying it was just fascinating hearing from Adam about Clown in a Cornfield and like writing perspectives and things like that. So I know we've talked a bit more than we should have maybe on that book. But I think it was great. It was brilliant. Really had a good.
The Clown in the Cornfield that I read when it came out.
Oh.
I put it in my rucksack when I took it out, and the whole back, like in awesome slasher style. I don't know if you can see on the back of it. The whole back ripped the whole way up.
Oh,
but
like.
Bookshop, shout out to Toppings, put this lovely plastic coating on it, so it looks like
amazing.
a normal book that's not been slashered. But my book was.
Oh.
It was a victim.
It was a victim of Frendo the Clown. That's what it was. But no, thanks for coming on, Karen.
No,
like I mentioned to Karen and I was like, oh, you need to come on and chat. So thank you so much. But I saw some people mentioning about The Spell by R L Stine, and I think that's one of the ones that you read, and I thought it was that crazy. I thought I really want to talk about it. And I know like we're going over the hour that I normally do on the chat, but there was so much to pack into this chat. I didn't know how I was going to do it. So but yeah, so The Spell then by R L Stine. So I always say it's a story of friendship and hypnotism, and basically makes you look at friendship, and will make you look at an ice cream scoop very, very differently. Indeed.
Really.
Honestly, if ever I go to anyone's house and they offer me ice cream, I'm going to look at them very suspiciously after reading this.
You are feeling sleepy. Ice cream.
So what did you think of this story, Karen? I've got to hear what you think.
I got halfway through it and I was like, I'm fairly certain. I kind of called this one really, really quite early. I was like, I'm fairly certain this is like every single person in this book has been, well, this story has been hypnotized from the outset. I was thinking it was even before they got to that. Was it the diner that they were in where they got them on all three on one side, and it was like
with the spoon, like
yeah. And they were like,
oh God, and it was like, I think there was one scary moment. So essentially, basically, it opens, doesn't it, with Jennifer like thinking about wanting to call the police, and for some reason she's not. And then obviously we get introduced to these friends. But one scary moment was after that scene you've just mentioned where they think they haven't been hypnotised. It kind of gets, I think it was Erica and Stan, like in the middle of the road.
Yeah.
And
I was like, oh my God, they're all going to die. Like that, the big, was it 18-wheeler truck that's coming towards them at 100 miles an hour.
Oh no. And he kind of stands them there. Oh, bye Eddie, thanks for joining in. If anyone else wants to come on the chat and have a little chat with us, honestly, just let me know and I'll bring you on. But yeah, that whole scene, where the traffic's coming and they're clearly at that point, you clearly know they're hypnotised.
Yeah.
And then it obviously takes like a really sinister turn where William, because obviously he's in this like competitive frenemies kind of relationship with, is it what's his name, Marty, and like Marty's always getting
like, almost like Spice Girls. It was like there's Sporty Spice and there's like I was like, really?
And it's like just put William needed anger management and that is very, very true. He didn't need any more hypnotism skills. He clearly mastered that. But he's got like this frenemies relationship with Marty, and obviously he says to Jennifer that he's gonna. There's so many characters in this short story, but is going to basically get Erica and Stan to kill Marty with the baseball bat, and make sure you leave the baseball bat on the scene of the crime as well. So obviously they go through with this, and Jennifer thinks that they're just playing along, because she's already warned Erica about, you know, don't fall for it, just pretend you're hypnotized.
Yeah, and she does look up at her and just kind of goes like this, and it's like there's like a connection, almost like, oh, she's fine.
She's fine, it's so everything's okay. So yes, obviously this murder happens, but it was a bit of a crazy story, and he kind of confesses that he like hypnotized them before and they didn't realize it, and obviously giving them ice cream with the ice cream scoop was what was the trigger point. So it was like, I think they say it's like, oh, it's so delicious, the ice cream. But what did you think of this for a Stine short story?
It didn't sound like him at all, to be honest. I feel like he got drunk one night and just went, sod it, I'm eating some ice cream. I'm writing a random story about this. But
yeah, I kind of liked his originality in it, and that and you know, you just never know.
Yeah,
and
I felt bad for William, because he spends the whole time going, oh, I want to go and get a job. Oh, Marty's got the job. I want to go and get this particular role in the drama show. Marty, I can kind of understand the annoyance at the other guy always getting what you want. But to murder. It's like, no.
And hypnotism murder.
Wouldn't you go, okay, I've just mastered and become the greatest hypnotist ever. I'm going to go to the drama studio and say, I think you need me as the lead. Or I think you need the person in the restaurant. And he just gets fired. That would be what I would do. But that's what...
Yeah, that's any sensible person would do. It's just crazy. But this is why I kind of like this story, because I just thought I liked it for its craziness.
Yeah.
And that it just... like, I just loved it. And like, have you ever been hypnotized? Like,
no, I'm one of the...
I have.
It can happen. And I've seen it when I was a kid and went on holiday to these, like, the little holiday camp villages and things that you go to see sit on the front, and then they start, as they did in the story, like barking like dogs and clucking like chickens.
Yeah.
But I literally sit there like, like, really,
well, I did, until the point that I don't know whether I should tell this story because it's really embarrassing. But cut a long story short, I never really believed in all of that, and I always just think, yeah, people are faking it, blah 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 blah. Yeah. And we went to like a holiday camp place, and they were doing this hypnotism show, and they kind of asked for volunteers, but somehow, I don't know how this happened, but I ended up being one of the volunteers.
You'd been previously hypnotised.
I honestly, I don't know whether I just thought, oh, why not, or I don't know. I can't remember, but I ended up on the stage, and all I can explain was like I didn't believe it, and I would never have been a believer, but it was like a weird sensation. But the long story short, after doing some weird things on stage with some of the others, in the half time he set us off to go and look for leprechauns on the floor around everyone's table, right? Now, I would never say I would do that, but there is evidence that I did that, and I do not remember anything. So to this day, I'm a little bit worried that there's like a trigger word out there that might have me on the floor looking for leprechaun.
Leprechaun ice cream.
Honestly, and I never would have said, and I don't really remember anything. I remember before that point, and then I don't remember anything. I don't remember looking for the leprechauns, and I don't remember anything after that point until I was back at my seat, and that's the only way I can explain it. And it's a weird feeling.
Evidence of this, please DM me, because I really want to see it.
I think there might be photographs. I don't know whether there's videos, but there is definitely photographs of me crawling around the floor, going to people. Have you seen my little leprechaun? He's like little and green. Apparently. But yeah.
Shelley, are you sure you hadn't hit the Vino?
Yeah, I know, maybe. But yeah, it's Nikki's put, did you find the Lucky Charms? Like, I honestly, to this day, but I don't remember anything up to, after a certain point until I was back at my seat. And I can't explain that feeling. It's weird. And Yeah, I'm sure there's like a word somewhere out there that might trigger it off again.
Yeah. You need to
I'm a
find the
bit
evidence
scared.
and then replay it from the start.
Oh dear. So yeah, so I never believed in hypnotism until that
Until
point.
now.
And then I was like, I'm never doing that again.
Yeah.
Never volunteering.
If you
Ever
start
again.
coming at any
Never.
of us with a baseball bat, I'll be like, it's fine. We'll sort it out.
Or if I offer you ice cream.
I would probably agree, though. I'm a very big fan of ice cream, so I'd be the first to die in that scenario.
Oh, I would. I'd be like, it depends on the flavour though. It would be like, what flavour is it? Just really quick as well. I know. I don't think you read Hacker, did you?
Didn't,
but okay. I just want to really briefly bring it up, as long as you don't mind spoilers. Yeah,
spoiler,
because it was that crazy. I just want to see what your reaction is more than anything. This story was crazy. So basically, it's about a young computer student. I mean, feel free to jump in at any point and go, what the hell? So Sinclair Smith, this is by the way. So this doesn't surprise me in any way, but I kind of liked it in a weird way. Raj put Hacker was good. Yeah, it was good, but for the wrong reasons. I don't think it was intentionally meant to be how we took it. But yeah, a young computer student called Violet, who knows nothing about computers, is taking night classes learning about computers.
Yeah.
And then there's Mr. Umberto, who's the teacher, and apparently he's some young, like, hot teacher. And he loves flowers and indoor gardening, and he loves a good practical joke. But in this town where they live, there's these people go missing, and the police can't seem to trace these messages that apparently get sent through a computer before you're going to die or before you're the victim.
So the FBI does not exist.
Yes. So you get, like, if you get a message on your computer like this, roses are red, violets are blue, sugar is sweet, toodaloo, then that's for you. That's not even the worst one, that's just the one I wrote down. So if you get a message like that, gone. that means like you're probably the next victim. So
bad poetry.
Oh dear, but it just gets funny. I mean, that's the only one I wrote down because you just got to read them to believe them. A lot of people like.
You get sent a cactus. Is there a cactus?
Yes. Well, that's the next thing. So basically, this is so funny explained to Karen when she hasn't read this story. So she goes to get a snack while she's on this. She's doing like a night course basically. So she goes to get this snack. When she comes back, there's a message on her computer similar to the one I've just read out. And she thinks, because she's so rubbish with computers, she thinks she's got into the hacker's computer. So she's like, I've solved the crime, she's saying. I've solved the crime.
Or the
so
hacker gets onto her PC while she left it unlocked.
Exactly. So obviously when she gets home, her dad has gone away for 2 weeks. And he's bought her a new home computer because apparently this serial killer called the Hacker only targets people with home computers. Okay. So he's bought this home computer, so she's a bit like, oh, this might not be good. And basically as well, at that point, she gets this delivery of this large flowery cactus, which has been delivered to her house, which apparently is really tall. So I think she puts it in her bedroom. You honestly got to read it to believe this one. So then, obviously, she gets a message on her home computer about a murder that's going to happen of poor Mr. Brown. It's like Nikki said, be concerned, Mr. Brown.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
That's a really uncommon name as well.
Yeah. So she gets this message, and who does she run to? I think she runs to Mr. Umberto to like say, oh no, because obviously she doesn't know anything about computers and he's the expert. And as she gets to his office, she sees the exact same message on his computer in the background. Surprise, shock, horror, not. So, But he just pretends, oh, this is all a practical joke. Like, I'm just joking, because he tells her he's the killer and all this, and then he laughs hysterically, like,
Yeah, that's the best part.
I'm winding you up, because, like, obviously I'm the best practical joker ever. So then all of a sudden, what's her name? Violet becomes this brilliant computer genius. This is all in one short story. This brilliant computer genius, and she hacks into his computer after hours, after he's gone home, and she finds out his password, which was roses, because he loves flowers.
Yep.
So yeah, and she calls. Oh God, I've lost my speech. She finds a file called Hacker. So
Oh my God. That's
so then
what a hacker would do. Hacker.
So then what she does is she miraculously manages to find the email address for Mr. Brown in this hacker file, because he's going to be the next victim, and emails him to warn him, and basically calls the police. And it turns out that, yes, Mr. Umberto is the killer, and he hides all of the bodies in potted plants, including the cactus that was delivered to Violet's door.
That cactus would be dead. That, like, I've got multiple cacti. There's no way that's happening.
Oh, I can't believe I like it in a weird way, because it's just so crazy. And it's like what Adam was saying earlier. It's like, you know, you want to stand out in these anthologies.
Yeah.
And that definitely stood out. Like, there was no real mystery about it, just craziness.
You were saying it was a 6-foot cactus?
It was a 6-foot cactus.
And it was flowering.
Flowering, yeah, with yeah, the cactus
that's like this size, and it took me about 4 years to make it flower and work out what to put in the soil to make it flower. How long have you grown that cactus?
Exactly. So this story. So a lot of people saying about the plant pots. Yeah, and as Raj said, exactly. There's so many questions. So many questions. But yeah, Raja's, but I love how the student became a computer expert in next to no time. It was just, honestly, it was the most.
She's Neo from Matrix. I know Kung Fu.
Melina's put the teacher was so sinister. Beware if you get a cactus. So no one sends me a cactus, because I'm going to know there's a dead body in there.
You might be spending £200 at the garden centre.
Cynthia's but remember when chainmail tried to go viral when the internet was new? That reminds me of this. Yeah, it was like, honestly, some of these poems as well, for the things, like, you wouldn't think you were going to get murdered if you got them, but obviously remember he was a practical joker. And Raja's but I feel like the teacher thought he was the Riddler from Batman. Yeah, it's just, yeah. And Nikki's put, didn't someone let Mr. Brown know, but how on earth did they locate the right Mr. Brown? So I think it was because miraculously Violet managed to work out the whole computer system and figure out that in the file it was the Mr. Brown that had a message sent. It was just, honestly.
Oh, this is in 1991, I think it was, right?
Yeah. And it's,
I was 10 at that point, so I don't think I even had my first PC.
No.
But they were easy to use. Like, not like now where you pick up like your phone and you can just go, okay, yeah, that works. That's how you open stuff. You had to know what you were doing.
And it's like the missus put, wouldn't it stink? Yeah,
yes.
it would definitely stink. And be very heavy inside the covers put. And Cynthia's put, how small was the person in the cactus pot? Wow. You know, it begs the question, did he chop them up? Like, what was he doing? Like,
I think it's a different story somewhere. Maybe one of, like, there's 4 in here that I didn't get a chance to read. Maybe 4 is the subplot story to how those people became this size and 4 would be able to be put in the plant.
And yeah, so Speedway Chicks put, wasn't there a body in multiple plants? Cynthia, stop giving us ideas. Yeah, if I get a cactus arrive at my door, I'm gonna be very worried.
I've now got really good ideas for Christmas gifts for you.
Can you imagine? I'll get a package from Karen. It's either going to be a piranha or a cactus now.
They're always a cactus with a piranha stuck in it and a tiny person, like a little like.
Oh dear. Yeah, that's it. Oh no. Oh dear. But we'll just do one more story then, because I realise the time is getting on, and then maybe what I'll have to do is do like a little video of like just chatting about the others, maybe at some point, or maybe like an extra live or something, just to cover the other stories. But which one stood out to you out of the ones that you read?
I literally, like, this is literally what I've read. I'm taking notes.
Have a look.
A little taste of death with lollipops.
Should we talk about a little taste of death?
Yeah.
Because and maybe we might have to do another live to talk about Collect Cool, because I really do want to talk about that, but that would be just its own separate live, maybe. Yeah, someone's put extra live, please. Yeah, I'll try and sort something out. So yeah, a little taste of death then. This is another one, and it is true. It really did stand out. I'm just finding my notes. Little Taste of Death. So it was by Patricia Windsor. Now, I'd never read a Patricia Windsor book until last year. I did read The Christmas Killer.
Ooh.
And it wasn't a Point horror, it was just under the Point brand in America, but I managed to get a copy. And I loved that book. I thought it was really good, sinister, with a creepy twist.
I need to remember if it's a Christmas. Christmas.
Yeah, I think it was called something else first, and then they rebranded it as The Christmas Killer.
Yeah.
But yeah, lots of people saying yes, extra live. Yeah, I try and do an extra live because I feel like all the stories in this book were just so good. So perhaps the ones we didn't chat about, I'll maybe do one in the week or something like that. If Karen's up for it, Karen can join. Yeah,
I can try and read them all before then. So. I was basically reading them this morning, going, "Oh no, I've not read them yet."
Or if anyone wants to be on the chat with us, just let me know and we can do it, because I just think the stories in here were brilliant. So again with this one, slight trigger warning for an animal death and maybe trauma, I want to say, because it was quite traumatic.
At all.
No, really didn't.
It's not
in fact,
horror, though, to be honest.
I'm surprised Stine didn't put an animal death in his, to be honest, because he's quite notorious in Fear Street for doing that. Yeah. But yeah, so basically it's about Louis. Louis likes to read the newspaper in the morning over the breakfast table with her gran, and you get the impression that they're quite well off. I don't know what that
like really
had
old,
anything.
Like old worldy Southern American style of, asked to be excused from the table.
Yeah. It was, but it was so bizarre because it had no relevance to the story, and like I don't know, it just felt really weird to know that because it had no relevance. Marzipan Pony said, "Is this the one with it?" No, that was Death Flash. So, which was another crazy one, which I'll try and do another live definitely and talk about these other stories because I feel like we've got lots to say. Yeah. So the one with the it was Death Flash, which was just bizarre. So basically she has to fold this newspaper back up in its original state as well, and she likes to read the classified section, and one day she's reading this classified section and sees something that says, "Do you remember the lollipop and the man with the white bowler hat?"
So random.
And I'm like, this is random. It could mean anything. White bowler hat, was it like turning into a clockwork orange? Like, do you know what I mean? So Louis does remember the lollipop, and so calls the number. And the person asks lots of questions to Louis, like, "Are you experiencing any symptoms?" But we don't know what symptoms. So basically they're arranging to meet up as like with this other group, and she bumps into this person called Bobby Lee, I think it is, outside, and they kind of go in together. And it's like a support group for people who remember the lollipop. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to be serious, but
support group for lollipops. It reminded me of the Midnight Club, because they all get into that room sitting around tales of woe and how they've been mean to each other. And I'm like, having just watched The Midnight Club with your other lives, I'm like, it's pretty similar.
Well, yeah, so there's like a group of them that get around to talk about their experience with the lollipop and this man with the white bowler hat. And apparently he's got like a brown tooth or something. And apparently Louis remembers the man with the lollipop when she was little. And this man on a train with the weird brown tooth had given her this lollipop, and her mum had banned her from eating it. But she hid it and then ate it later.
Yeah.
So she gets told by this group that, oh, if you eat the lollipop, you're going to start to change. And she does start to see like bad things happen. And one of the kids, and then it gets really serious really quickly, because one of the kids from the group, so just trigger warning for like suicide, does commit suicide. And I think slits her wrist or something in the back.
Yeah.
It gets really, really serious for something that seemed quite light-hearted.
But try and make it more light-hearted by saying that as this is happening, the mother is downstairs making cookies.
Yeah.
Someone outside is like, it completely ruined the cookies. I'm like, is this town like off its rocker? Because they're very posh, and they're not worried about the fact that someone's passed away. They're worried about the fact that that day's cookies have been ruined.
Yeah, it honestly it just got serious so quick, and in such like a really heavy way, considering you're like laughing about this lollipop scenario. But yeah, so basically Louis starts having dreams of Bobby Lee, and Bobby Lee's trying to tell her to do nasty things, and she kind of wakes up and's got like a cut on her hand at some point. But before all that, there's like a bit of a random weird. Yeah, it's like, that's what I'm going to call it now.
Random
like a mixture of weird and random. So there's like a random part of like someone breaks into the house.
I don't
and like
broke in. I think it was her.
Do you think it was her?
Yeah. Because all the kids who had a taste of death or like ate death, they're all like one after each other. Because I think it was so I have got it written down.
James
Blaine and Diane Whittaker both take their lives within like 2 days, and then like a little bit later you then get Keith and Daryl do the same thing. So there's only left, but because she only took, it says somewhere at the end that, oh, I only took a lick of the lollipop, and then my mum came out and beat the living daylight and threw it in the bin. So I didn't finish eating it, so I only had a taste of death.
A taste of death.
So I think it was her that went round, and as opposed to do much worse things, which is probably why the other kids ended up doing what they did. Probably did worse things than being mean to animals. And
because you kind of you get that scene where it's like randomly someone's, I'm taking it, had done something rather nasty in the living room. With poop, I think it was, but it doesn't actually say that, I don't think. You just get implied that that's what it is. But then they sit in the dining room next to it and eat their breakfast.
Yeah, I love thinking about it. It's like, don't go in there. Don't look.
Just don't.
Horrifying.
Do not go in there. Do not, Louis.
I think in the oven.
Yeah. So then you've got this whole mad scene of the maid, because obviously they're rich, and the maid like kind of runs out in horror, and there's this big boiling pot which has never been used, and again trigger warning, but there's a dog in there essentially, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? And it was like only a really quick like couple of lines, and I did have to go back and reread it to make sure that I'd read it correctly, the description, which wasn't pleasant. But yeah, I don't know what to make of this story. Like, what did you think? Like,
there was, I mean, that I thought that it was just because it was part of her actions, because she says that she keeps feeling a little bit spacey and doesn't really know what's going on, and then she's sleeping all day, and you can feel like it's darkness that's taken over a little bit.
Yeah.
But the ending was really, really fast. Like, I feel like she was on a deadline, and she was like having this lovely time writing this lovely story, and then looked at her watch and went, "Oh God, I've got an hour to hand it in. Quick, end it."
Quick end it, yeah.
Like throw the dog on the pile. But then she
And like
the whole pot, she picks up the pot with her bare hands and she runs out and she's like, I don't really mind about the blisters. I'm like, what? Your hands would have like fallen off.
I just like I was a bit speechless at the end, and I think I was talking to I think it's My Cozy Liverpool Home, and I was saying like I'm speechless. It actually made me quite speechless.
Yeah.
But in a way, like I liked the story because I thought I wanted to hear more, and I wanted a bit more backstory and like a bit more build up. But yeah, but it does remind me of her style. I mean, I don't think there's any like animal deaths in The Christmas Killer, but she's got this sinister kind of style in her writing.
Yeah.
And it just really hooks you in. And even though like maybe the endings might not be too satisfying, it still makes you think. And like, yeah, it was very deep, very deep.
The comment from Looney, I can't pronounce this. Well,
I say Luna, but I don't know whether that's right.
If I'm butchering that, I'm sorry. Well, it's eerie Indiana vibes. Yes.
Yes. So many eerie Indiana vibes, definitely. And Melina's put it was so surreal. Roger's put, yeah, I agree. It got some real serious, real quick in that support group session. Something was definitely eerie in the town. Yes, maybe it was more. Yeah, because if the classified, that's a point. So the classified was in the newspaper. So that means everyone in that town licked the lollipop or ate the lollipop.
Yeah. It had like a really, really like the Erie, Indiana, the small town feel, like everyone's in that little bubble away from the rest of the world, because you can read the newspaper in 15, 20 minutes flat, and she always reads these things. It was taking a little bit of a leap to go, this person is definitely going to read this newspaper and see this advert that says, do you remember a dude in a white hat getting a lollipop? I was like, and also that she's 15. Like, how much do you remember from when you were 5 of eating sweets? Because I don't remember anything. Like, once or twice.
No.
Like, nope.
So,
the likelihood of me remembering that some random dude offered me at the age of 5 a lollipop, and then I got beaten for, like, trying to eat it. I don't remember that. Like, it's not a deal that would stick out in my head.
Yeah, it's just like, no, Speedway Chicks put no time for build-up, and... Yeah.
Did the grandma know?
Yeah, did the grandma?
Oh, maybe she was in on it. That's why she was so like, don't look in there, darling.
Yeah. And then inside the covers put shot me at the time. Rogers put moral of the story, don't take sweets from strangers.
Lune or Claire.
Oh, yes, of course it's Claire. I just need to like be sacked. This life was so terrible. Oh dear. Yeah, but I kind of liked that story. I think it was one of my favourites, but for the wrong reasons. And I mean, you could look into it further and deep down and think like, was it about trauma when she was younger and that? And I kind of like that. There's quite a lot of layers that you could deep down in and see what she was trying to get at in it, and I quite like that in a weird way. But what I'll do, I'll finish the chat there, and then maybe what we'll do another live and just talk about some of the others, only because there was just that many good stories in this book. Like it was brilliant, and I'm so glad Adam suggested for us to read it, because I really enjoyed it, and I didn't think I'd have as many favourites as I did, and I'm sorry for making you all vote in that evil vote, but it was a little bit of fun and I was giggling a little bit. But if you voted, thank you, because that must have been hard. But yeah, Rogers put, honestly, Shelley, I feel I enjoyed all the stories. This was such a good pick for October. Yeah, it really was. I really, really loved it. And thanks for everyone who's joined in and stuck with us this whole time that we've been doing the chat. And thank you, Karen, for jumping in and then coming to chat as well. Like, I really appreciate it. I love you lots and lots and lots. So thank you for doing that. And we'll do another little chat and we'll talk about the other stories, and then we've covered all bases, I think. Then, but yeah, thank you, and thanks for everyone joining in. We'll see you soon.
See you later.
Bye. 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 Oh, I forgot how to end it. 1 second. Bye. Bye.